half ago, I started noticing this thing about Pokemon. Now, not all Pokemon, but most, are a thing or an animal mixed with an element. And by element, I mean their type, as Pokemon types go beyond your regular basic elements. You've also got things like flying and fairy and dragon, which aren't really elements, they're types, but let's call it element for now. Element / type. So I started noticing this about a year and a half ago while watching Pokemon, like way older seasons because I wanted to catch up, which I'm still behind on, so no spoilers about the new season. But it gave me the idea that I want to go through each and every Pokemon and point out what they're a mixture of, and also what their name is a pun of, because usually their name represents whatever they're a mixture of. And I find it really fascinating and fun, so we're making a video about it. And by we, I mean me. And, well, let's say we, because I'm making it and you're watching it, you're contributing. It counts. So, like I said, I want to go through every single Pokemon. However, for starters, 1, not every single Pokemon is an animal or thing mixed with an element. And 2, there's about a bajillion Pokemon right now. And they're probably going to add more and more before I can get through all the ones that are currently out in 2023. So, this is part 1 of a bajillion long video series, so I hope you enjoy. I also don't want to do it in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the exact order of the Pokédex, basically, because where's the fun in that? I want to do it in whatever order you want to see. You want to know about this Pokemon or that Pokemon or whatever, you let me know, and I'll do it in the next one, or another one, or whatever, right? Keep commenting and tell me what your favorite Pokemon is and why, and I'll talk about it. But to start off for today, I am going to start at the very beginning, because you gotta start somewhere, and it feels almost incorrect to not start with the very first starters from the very first starter region, very first game, etc. It feels wrong not to do it. So, today we're going to talk about the Kanto region starters, which are, in order, Bulbasaur, Charmander, and Squirtle, but we're also going to include Pikachu. Now, I'm going to include the evolutionary states of those first 3, the Bulbasaur, Charmander, and Squirtle, but not Pikachu. The only reason I'm including Pikachu is because Ash is the only one who has Pikachu as a starter, and Ash is special. The Kanto region is the only time when we get a 4th starter, at least as far as I know. I haven't seen Horizons yet, no spoilers. So, that's why I'm including Pikachu, but not Pichu and Raichu, just Pikachu, but I'm going to include the evolutionary states. But I'm going to include the evolutionary states of the actual first 3 starters. And how we're going to do this, so that the video is not, a billion hours long, which I don't think I would mind talking about Pokemon for a billion hours, but I don't know how good of a video that would be. However, if this is part 1 of 10 or 20 and you're watching all of them, then maybe you are watching for close to a billion hours. I'm not here to judge you, but I'm not going to subject you to one video that is a bajillion hours. So let's stop the rambling and get to it, shall we? We're going to go through it like this. The name of the Pokemon, what animal or thing I think it's mixed with, what element or type I think it is mixed with, what Nintendo says, if anything, and what its name is a pun of. As like I mentioned, there's more than just the design mixture here, there's also the name mixture, which I find fascinating. So, without further ado, let's jump right into it. Pikachu? Despite what I said in the intro, I'm actually going to start off with Pikachu, as he's kind of the face of Pokemon anyway, so it makes sense to start off with him. Plus, like I mentioned, I'm not doing its previous and next evolutionary state, just Pikachu. Those are for other videos. So, being a standalone, I figured we start off with Pikachu. Now, for me, I always thought that Pikachu resembled a rabbit. So for animal or thing, I would say a rabbit. But I do also remember growing up with that anime and hearing the Pokédex say that Pikachu was the electric mouse Pokemon. At least I really hope that's true and I'm not just making it up. If it's true, you'll have a clip here and I will take out this part. If it's not true, then that might be a Mandela effect. That's a whole other video.
It's also known as electric mouse.
So, the animal I would say that Pikachu is mixed with would be a rabbit. Some people might say mouse. I can kind of see it in the nose. However, Nintendo says that Pikachu is meant to be a squirrel. Which, I kind of get. The tail is more squirrel-like than rabbit. I'll give it that. But the ears and the feet, that more resembles rabbit to me. I think the feet could pass for squirrel, but the ears, that's rabbit ears. Those are rabbit ears. Based off of its yellow body and the fact that it is a electric type and conducts electricity and stores electricity in its cheeks, which I'm getting back to, the element that it would be mixed with would be electricity. Going back to what Nintendo says that Pikachu is meant to resemble a squirrel because of its rosy red cheeks. In its rosy red cheeks, Pikachu stores electricity and then is able to shoot it out for all the various electric type moves that it's able to do. Similar to how squirrels store food in their cheeks. So I get it. I'm still not seeing the squirrel. Now, I can definitely see it in the tail, because if you take the puffy tail of a squirrel and electrocute it in a cartoon form, so it's all sticky-uppy, that kind of looks like Pikachu's tail. I get it. But also, I always thought Pikachu was a rabbit, so there's that. Last but not least comes Pikachu's name. Now, Pikachu's name I find so interesting. So, Pikachu's name comes from two words in Japanese. One that means, I think it's Pika. I believe the words are Pika and Chew. Don't quote me on that though. One means spark or sparkle as a reference to electricity, and the other one is the sound that a squirrel makes. So, electric squirrel. I get it. Cheeks, I get it. I'm still going with rabbit. I'm not gonna fault you if you go with squirrel. I will disagree with you if you go with mouse though, because I don't care what the Pokédex says, that is not a mouse.
Bulbasaur.
Now to actually move on to the actual starters of the Kanto region, we are starting with Bulbasaur, who just so happens to be number 1 in the Pokédex. I know I said I wasn't gonna do 1, 2, 3, 4, but these next 9 are 1 to 9 in the Pokédex because they're at the beginning. Pikachu is not number 10. But that doesn't matter now. We already did Pikachu. Bulbasaur. Bulbasaur, to me, always resembled a dinosaur. And I'm sure that has somewhat to do with its name, but we're not there yet. To me, the actual body of Bulbasaur, if you take the flower bulb off, reminded me of Spike from Land Before Time. I know they're not the same, they're not even the same dinosaur, but similar enough that I'm like, oh yeah, that's a dinosaur. That's clearly a dinosaur. That's like a cousin or something to Spike. Some close-ish relation that you know that they're similar. That's what my mind thought as a child, and I'm sticking to it. Bulbasaur is a dinosaur, no matter what Nintendo says. Shh. Okay, moving on. The element that Bulbasaur will be mixed with is technically grass, as that is its type. However, you could say that Bulbasaur is more a dinosaur mixed with a flower bulb, because that's what its literal name is. Bulb, flower bulb, dinosaur, soar, Bulbasaur. I mean, it's right there in the name. If Nintendo didn't want us to think it was a dinosaur, they should have named it something else. Just saying. Now, Nintendo says that Bulbasaur and its evolutionary line are based off of a bullfrog and the lifespan of an onion. The whole onion thing is just weird to me. No. The bullfrog I can kind of see, but not really. I don't see the flip-floppity legs of a frog. I see the big... I see the big sturdy legs of a dinosaur that's like huge and needs to have these like column-like legs, right? I don't see the flip-floppity frog legs. Next is Ivysaur, which, similar to Bulbasaur and also similar to Venusaur, which will be next, it's a dinosaur. It looks like a bigger dinosaur. Like a teenage dinosaur, like going from a kid to a teenager to a full-grown adult. It's a dinosaur. They're all dinosaurs. Not all the Pokemon. These 3 Pokemon are all dinosaurs in my head. No matter what Nintendo says, I'm not going to ridiculously fight on anybody who thinks it's a frog, because that's what Nintendo says. I can kind of see it. Go ahead, I think you're incorrect, but I'm not going to fight you on it. But to me, dinosaurs, it's in the name. It's in the name. Going along with the type or element that Ivysaur and Bulbasaur and Venusaur are a part of, Ivysaur has, at the beginning of its name, the word ivy. Ivy is a type of plant that grows horizontal, kind of like if you pictured someone turned grass instead of vertical on the ground to grow horizontal on the side of a house. That's kind of what ivy's like, at least that's what I thought of it when I was a child, and that's the best way I'm going to explain it now. It's a grass type plant thing. It goes with the theme. I like it. Plus, going on with the slightly older looking, or bigger, more mature looking dinosaur as opposed to Bulbasaur, Ivysaur has the bulb of the flower instead of just being a bulb. Block my face. Instead of just being a bulb, it's like about to bloom, going to bloom, but hasn't quite bloomed yet. Very significant of like the middle stage between like kid and adult. I like it. I like it. The flower has absolutely nothing to do with ivy, but there you go. A fun fact about Ivysaur's name, though, however, the name for Ivysaur in Japanese, so its original name, translates to, and I wrote this down, that's why I'm looking down, translates to strange grass. I've put the Japanese name on screen. I'm not going to try and pronounce it because I will butcher it like crazy. I can barely speak English, but there you go. It roughly translates to strange grass, which, like I said, if you kind of picture ivy as a horizontally growing grass, it makes sense. I like it. Also sticks with the theme of the grass type. I like it. Good job, Nintendo. Still not a bullfrog and an onion, but good job. Good job. Last but not least in this evolutionary line, we have Venusaur. Now, similar to how I mentioned with Bulbasaur, Venusaur, again, reminds me, like the body of Venusaur reminds me of a dinosaur. Especially like an adult version of Spike or a similar dinosaur to him from Land Before Time. By the way, let me know in the comments if you grew up watching those videos, because apparently they keep making them till like 2016. Like, there's a lot more than there were when I was growing up. And I was born in 95, so you can do the math there. Anyways. So I would say the type of animal that Venusaur is mixed with is obviously, again, dinosaur. Still at the end of its name, Saur, dinosaur. It's still a dinosaur. It's still a dinosaur. The beginning part of its name, however, now that's different. However, the element or type would still be grass, flower bulb. It's now in full bloom because it's now fully matured. It's very nice. I like it. It's very cool. Love the design. The name, however, is a little bit interesting. Venusaur reminds me of the planet Venus, plus a dinosaur. Does that seem weird to anybody else? It seemed weird to me. What does that have to do with grass type? Or grass or plants or anything? Nothing. Except for it doesn't. Fun fact for you, because I did research on this. I'm not just blindly saying things here, people. I did research. All the credits are in the description below. I did research on this, and apparently the planet Venus was used a lot in ancient times when it came to the study and science of plants and growth of plants and botany and herbology and all that good stuff. So, the planet Venus has an ancient connection to plants. So, it actually does have something to do with grass type, because that's the planet that was used to grow plants back in the day. Nope, that's incorrect. It does have something to do with grass, because the planet was used somehow, symbolically, spiritually. I don't know, I wasn't there. It was used in a sense of some kind in the ancient study of growing things like plants, so it makes sense. Even though if you didn't know that, it wouldn't make sense, but now you do. So, there you go. Everybody's happy. Last but not least, I have a little fun fact about Venusaur's name, again, similar to Ivysaur. The Japanese name for Venusaur, so its original name. Obviously, I'm talking about the English version name, so that's the only language I can speak, and not very well. The Japanese name translates to, and again, I wrote this down, so I'm looking down and looking at it, 2 words meaning mystery and flower, respectively. So there you go. Mystery flower, which kind of makes sense in my head. I mean, how did the flower attach itself to Bulbasaur? How does the flower grow at the same time that the Pokemon body does? It's a whole big thing. It's pretty cool. And also, I don't know if a flower like that exists in the Pokemon world, not on top of Bulbasaur. So it's kind of its own mystery type flower. Pretty cool. Pretty cool.
Charmander!
Next in the Kanto region starters, we have Charmander, who personally is my second favorite. And I only say that because Squirtle beat it out by this much because of a specific card we had. We're gonna have to watch the Squirtle part to know about that. Now, fire types have always had a special part in my heart. I don't know why. Any game of Pokemon I ever played, I always picked the fire type. No matter what I thought about the other Pokemon, I always started with the fire type. So, I'm a fire type girl. It's my thing. And Charmander is absolutely adorable. I mean, have you seen those eyeballs? Have you seen that face? That's adorable. So, of course, he is one of my absolute favorites. And I'm happy to say that Charmander's name reflects very nicely to its design, which is not always the case for every Pokemon, but you'll see that when you watch videos about other Pokemon that I make, or just the previous ones that I've mentioned in this video. The animal or thing that I would say Charmander is based on would easily be a lizard, or specifically a salamander, as it's in the name. And then the thing or element or type it is mixed with would obviously be fire, because, I mean, its tail's on fire. That was pretty easy. Plus, the beginning of its name, Char, is the beginning of the word shard, which is what happens when you cook something down to coal or embers or charcoal. You cook it all down and it becomes ash, basically. Charred. There you go. So, it goes along with the fire theme very well. Plus, according to Nintendo, Charmander is actually based around a very specific salamander called the red-effed salamander, found in Clear Creek. I believe I'm saying that correctly. So, it is canon that Charmander is a salamander. I think it's pretty easy, pretty straightforward. Even the rest of its evolutionary states are some sort of lizard plus fire. So, I mean, Nintendo really went with it, and I think they did a good job. I like Charmander. He's cute. Next we have Charmeleon, who Charmander evolves into. Now, Charmeleon, the name, you've got the lizard there, chameleon, chameleon, Charmeleon. I'll give it to it. The design doesn't look that much like a chameleon to me. To me, it looks more like a dinosaur. Now, maybe I'm going with the whole Bulbasaur thing, because if you remember, or if you've already seen, I always thought Bulbasaur looked like a dinosaur. But to me, the horn thing on the back of his head, and just its stance, it looked more like a dinosaur than any type of lizard to me. But let's say it's a lizard. Let's say it's a lizard. Okay? Let's say it's a chameleon, even. It's a chameleon lizard mixed with fire, char. Same thing. Plus, I think they did a really good job in the design of Charmeleon, because I think it's the perfect Pokemon to go between Charmander and Charizard. Like, it's the perfect middle. It's the perfect. And it kind of looks like a moody teenager too, a little bit. I love it. Love, love, love. Last but not least, we have the last Pokemon in this evolutionary line, Charizard, who is extra super cool. If you are similar to me, and you grew up collecting Pokemon cards, or watching the anime, back in the day, Charizard was like the epitome of cool. That's the coolest Pokemon you can get. That's the coolest one. Everybody wants it. He is the one. Cooler than Pikachu, probably, even. Like, he's a big old dragon. How cool is that? It's pretty cool. But let's get down to things. Is a dragon a lizard? We're gonna get back to that. Going with the whole charred and lizard thing, Nintendo literally took the two words and squished them together. Charred lizard, Charizard. It works. It works. I like it. I think is a little punny. It's great. But now the actual design. When it comes down to it, if I were to say, I'd say the animal that Charizard is not a lizard, but a dragon. And then, of course, mixed with fire. However, is a dragon a lizard? Let's step back for a second, okay? Back when old fossils of dinosaurs were starting to be discovered, we assumed they were giant ancient lizards, or reptiles of some kind. Now, if ancient fossils, or bones or whatever, were found back then of dragons, it can only be assumed that we would think they were also giant reptiles, just of a different kind. Lizards are a type of reptile, so I kinda get it. Have we found fossils of dragons? Not that I know of. Were dragons real? Are they real? I don't know. That's not for me to say. But it kind of goes, although dragon is not a reptile, if it were real, it kind of would be close-ish, so it goes. Plus, it looks super cool, so I mean, I can't really be that mad at it. According to Nintendo, the design of Charizard comes from European folklore of dragons, which I think is super cool. Like, they went and researched European folklore and saw dragons and like, ooh, I like the design. Let me draw that and add some fire and make it super duper cool. And then we got Charizard. Is it just me? Is that super cool? I think it's super cool. Is it super cool? It's super cool.
Squirtle, 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 Squirtle.
Last but not least, we have my favorite of the Kanto region starters, Squirtle. Squirtle was my absolute favorite growing up, and as cute as he is, compared to Charmander, it was very close. I'm telling you, it was very close. It's only because of this one shiny card that my brother and I had growing up that I just adored Squirtle. Squirtle became my absolute favorite. And I've looked, I cannot find that card, but I will find a picture of it on Google, and I will be posting it on the screen if it's not up already. I spent hours staring at that card. I thought it was the most beautiful thing ever. So, I mean, Squirtle has a special place in my heart. Plus, it's super cute and adorable, especially if you take into account its name. We're gonna start with the name this time, okay? Squirtle is a combination of the word squirt and turtle, because Squirtle is a turtle, so there's the animal for you. But the word squirt has two meanings here. One, because Squirtle is a water type and can squirt water, but the second, because some people call a little kid squirt, because they're small. And Squirtle is meant to be small. Plus, it's the little kid version in the 3 evolutionary states, so it makes sense, and it's super cute. According to Nintendo, the tail of Squirtle is based around a squirrel, which I can kind of see. It's kind of like a curly Q. I get it. I kind of see it. However, the design of Squirtle is based around a Japanese legend of a turtle that lived for 10,000 years and had a tail that was made of seaweed. Which I don't think is really represented in the design, but it's still a cool story nonetheless. They definitely should have done something with Squirtle then to have some ancient power or something. 10,000 years or whatever. That would have been cool. Really incorporate that legend into the actual making of the Pokemon. That would have been cool, but maybe we'll see that in the future. Who knows? After Squirtle follows Wartortle. Wartortle looks like kind of the perfect in-between between Squirtle and Blastoise. So, a kind of perfect middle. Again, we've got turtle in the name. However, the war part is either war, warrior, or water. At least that's what it is according to Nintendo. The design, again, is also based around that ancient turtle that lived for 10,000 years, but its tail and the little ear things are kind of based off of the shape water takes when air's moving through it to make a wave, which that makes sense to me, as I always thought the tail and ears of Wartortle were very airy. I know there's not an air type, but to me it looked like it could fly as a kid, so I get it. It makes sense. I like it. Still going with the turtle thing. Obviously, I may or may not have mentioned for Squirtle the type or element that both of these Pokemon I'm mixed with would be water, as is represented by their type and their skin tone being blue. Last but not least, we have Blastoise, who is super cool. Dude's like a tank. He's awesome. He's big. He's a little bit intimidating looking, but he's super cool, and I love him. He's awesome. The word Blastoise is a mixture of the word blast and tortoise. Now, a turtle and a tortoise are different, but they're very similar looking, so I feel like we can forgive Pokemon for that. This is also an English translation, remember, so maybe Turtle just didn't sound right, so Blastoise made more sense. The word blast also goes along with the water cannons on its back and its shell, blasting out water. So, I think he's pretty cool. I would say that Blastoise is a turtle, or tortoise in this case, because of the name, mixed with water cannons. I think that's pretty good. According to Nintendo, Blastoise is either a turtle or a tortoise. Your pick. I picked tortoise because it's in the name, mixed with a tank, which I kind of get. However, I like my explanation better because I'm a little biased. Still, growing up, Blastoise was like that big Pokemon that you don't want to mess with Blastoise. He's super cool, and he's kind of dangerous, and he's really big. He'll protect you, but he's really big. Kind of scary, but in a good way, if that makes sense. That's what I felt as a kid, at least, and it's carried on to adulthood. Blastoise is super cool. And that's it. That's the 3 Kanto starters, plus Pikachu. Please let me know in the description what your favorite Pokemon is, because like I said, I do plan on making more of these videos, and one of them is going to be fan favorites based off of what Pokemon I get in the comments of these videos. So, there you go. Also, on screen right now, you will see here, area, every single credit for every single website and picture I have used in this video. If you want to do your own research on Pokemon, you go right ahead, you click one of those. It's also found in the description down below, but I am giving credit where credit is due because nothing is mine except for my words. Also, please remember that I do much more on this channel than just talk about Pokemon or anime, so if there's something you want me to talk about, let me know in the description down below, whether it be a talking point, something about Venus or the Mandela effect, 2 things I mentioned in this video, something else about Pokemon you want to know. Do you want to see a baking video, a gaming video, anything? The whole point of this channel is to be so diverse that I can say to anyone and everyone who watches that you'll definitely 100% be able to find something right up your alley. Now, what's the most important thing? Have fun and stay safe. Also, maybe watch the video on the screen now. If you want to watch another video of mine, you don't have to. The first 2 things are much more important. Make sure to do those. Have fun and stay safe. I'm gonna stop rambling now. Goodbye.